We are delighted to welcome Clare Collins, Deputy Head Teacher and Designated Safeguarding Lead at Vale School, West Sussex, who's going to share an example of work they did as part of the United Against Bullying programme. So the case study focuses around the roles involved in bullying, and Clare is going to explain how they put the learning from the United Against Bullying training into practice. But before we speak to Clare, we're just going to show this very short video about the roles involved in bullying.
The traditional view of responding to bullying incidents in schools is that you have a bully and a victim role. You find out what happened and you sort it out. But research shows that it's actually much more complicated than that. There is a target, some call that individual a victim, and a ringleader, some call that individual a bully. That ringleader does the majority of the bullying activity and often encourages others to get involved too. But there are other key roles that are important to be aware of. There is also a group we call reinforcers. They give power to the ringleader. They may not get involved directly in bullying, but they incite the ringleader and gather others to see what's happening. They may laugh along with the bullying and give the ringleader encouragement. Then there are assistants. The assistant joins in with the bullying, even though someone else has started it, and provides physical and/or other assistance to the ringleader. Then there are a group called defenders. The defender supports and defends the target. They may do this openly by confronting the ringleader, but may also do this more covertly, for example by telling a teacher or calling into question the power of the ringleader with the reinforcer or assistant. They may also provide friendship and encouragement to the target, empowering them to say no to the bullying happening to them. Finally, on the periphery of the bullying incident is a group called outsiders. An outsider stays removed from the bullying situation and either pretends not to notice or really isn't aware of what's happening. The outsider does nothing about the bullying. These roles can shift and change depending on the power dynamic and who is present or not at the time. We spend a lot of our energy focusing on changing the behaviour of the target and the ringleader, who are often stuck in a pattern of this bullying behaviour. If we instead focus our energy on trying to change the behaviour of those wider roles, we may have more success. For example, can we encourage those who are laughing to simply not laugh and become outsiders? Can we encourage assistants to stop joining in? Can we encourage outsiders to take an active role and tell the teacher or voice their displeasure with the bullying? All these things can take the power away from the ringleader.
So I am one of the deputy head teachers at Vale School in Worthing. We're on the south coast. We're a large school, just over 600 pupils, aged 4 to 11. When I was appointed to the school, it was in January 22, and part of my role was a strong focus on pastoral care, safeguarding behaviour and the wellbeing of staff and pupils. So when I heard about the Anti-Bullying Alliance and the programme, I was really excited to see how it could help me to kind of audit where we were as a school and work out what the priorities were for us in terms of anti-bullying. So my goal in this new role was to ensure that every child in our school felt safe and happy at all times, and that was my real driving force behind the programme and the things that we did. And obviously when the children returned to school following the COVID lockdowns, we identified a real need to support children with their interactions because they had been obviously at home and some of them not interacting with other children. So this really, we realised through doing our pupil surveys and using the ABA audit tool that this was actually a real high priority for us. And so the awards programme led us down a path to really address that, and it was the perfect opportunity to place this firmly on our school agenda, and particularly as our school rule is very simple, and it is be kind. So obviously, as I say, it was our top priority to improve those pupil relationships. So we really wanted to see an impact, not just in the classroom, but out on the playground and in other areas of school life. We wanted to raise the awareness of anti-bullying with all stakeholders. It wasn't just with the children. Obviously, we needed teachers all other members of staff, our governors, and the wider community on board. So by joining the programme, I felt it really raised that awareness and helped to steer us towards a shared understanding that we all have a responsibility to ensure that everyone in the school feels safe and happy at all times. I also saw that I would have access to lots of up-to-date materials and training on anti-bullying, and I felt this would help us to ensure a robust and consistent approach to anti-bullying through a shared vision of what we mean by bullying, what the behaviours and roles look like, and how we can adapt our responses with swift action when bullying does occur. And I was looking for those different ways in doing that, rather than sticking with the traditional let's talk to the child being bullied and the child doing the bullying, which was the kind of traditional approach. It was knowing that there was more out there. There was more that we could do. So we used the ABA pupil survey model, which was really useful. So we undertook that at the start and the end of the programme, which gave us a good measure at the start as to what to focus on, and obviously at the end to see the impact. And we used the auditing tool as well, which was really useful, really detailed and in depth, and it allowed us to, as a senior leadership team, really unpick where we were in terms of anti-bullying and the whole journey of the wider issues around that. So then we did some action planning and looked at how we could address the issues that had come out of the audit and the survey. So we went down the route of training for staff, a series of assemblies looking at the definition of bullying and what it can look like. And then we started to dig deeper into those roles that are at play, the different roles that are at play in bullying incidents, and looking at the difference between relational conflict versus bullying. And it was getting children to understand the difference between those two things, and staff as well. We did some other activities, things like identifying vulnerable pupils was a key thing, and sharing that amongst staff, so that at-risk groups of children, children who could possibly be more likely to be targeted. And we set up a pastoral monitoring system as well. So when things had been identified, whether it was relational conflict or bullying incidents, we were then able to not just deal with it in the moment, but continue to monitor and check in on those pupils, all the pupils involved, to make sure that things were going in the right direction. But one particular thing that we decided to introduce was a worry box for the children. Now, we recognised it was important that children had a variety of ways of raising their concerns and worries. But we felt in our school, one of the issues was that some children just couldn't verbalise those worries sometimes. So we introduced this worry box outside my office as the pastoral lead. And this led into a particular example that I wanted to share with you today, which was about identifying the roles at play in a bullying incident, and how we worked that through with the children. So if I give a little bit of detail about that case study now. So the children, a child had put a worry in the worry box, and it wasn't actually about themselves, it was about their friend, which I thought was quite interesting. So they had said that they were concerned that their friend was being bullied, and they didn't know what to do about it. So initially I spoke to that child individually to find out a bit more, and then went on to the child who was being the target of that behaviour, talk to them about it. And then using all the training and the understanding that I gained from following the Anti-Bullying Alliance programme, I was able to take a completely different approach. So I gathered together the peer group involved in this incident, not the ringleader, not the child doing the bullying behaviour, but actually the peer group involved. And there was 8 children involved in this incident. The first step was bringing them into a room and some of those children saying, this has nothing to do with me, I didn't do anything, I didn't say anything. And that was a real revelation moment for me, because I thought, yeah, these children really don't understand the role that they actually are playing in this situation. So I'd already done an assembly with the children about the different roles, that I was able to refer to that, and we got out little picture cards with each role. So we had the defender, the target, the outsider, the reinforcer, the assistant, and the ringleader. And we started to just think about, I asked the children to reflect on where they actually fitted in those roles. Which one of those roles did they take in this situation? And there was one particular child who was absolutely adamant she shouldn't be in that room and wasn't part of it until we got to the outsider role. And I talked that through and said, you know, these are the people who aren't doing anything, who think they're innocent in a situation, they're not doing any behaviours to harm anyone. But actually they are, because they're standing there and they are witnessing an incident and not taking any action. So it was for me, it was a groundbreaking moment in dealing with a bullying incident, was actually identifying this peer group and the different roles that they played, and then reflecting on what they could do differently next time. So when this particular child then realised they had been an outsider, it was then saying to them, well, you've given power to the ringleader by actually not doing anything. So how could we change that slightly so that, okay, you felt, because she articulated she was scared to get involved, and we acknowledge that that's actually obviously often a reason why children are on the outside, and it's important not to place any blame on them for that. It's reflecting and understanding why they are in that role, but that actually they can do something. So we talked about, if they didn't feel they could stand up and say something, actually as an outsider you could just go and get help, just go and tell someone else that it's happening. And then we explored all the different ways in which each different role could change their behaviour. So we encouraged honesty in our discussion, and we made it really clear that it wasn't about blaming anyone for the incident that had happened, but it was about working through a solution and helping the ringleader to change their behaviour. And it was interesting, another child recognised that they'd been reinforcing the unkind behaviour, because they said, oh, actually, I did laugh when they did that, but I didn't mean to. So again, we unpicked that a bit more, and we realised actually that child was a bit worried about being bullied themselves. So they were laughing in that kind of way of, oh yeah, I'll laugh along and then I won't be bullied. But we discussed how that again gives power to the ringleader and the impact on the whole situation. So the discussion was just groundbreaking. It really was. It was amazing how those children recognised the role they played and how they could do things differently next time and change the situation. And then the next step, I went back to the target, the child who was receiving the bullying behaviour, and I asked the child if they would be happy to have a meeting with everybody involved, including the ringleader, the child doing the bullying behaviour. And I think that's important to get that consent. But they were happy to do that. So we got everyone together and then we talked it all through again. And made it very clear that it was about the ways forward. How can we find a pathway out of this conflict? How did the conflict begin? Why did that behaviour happen? And what everyone can do differently next time, because it is a group responsibility when incidents like this occur. So the great thing about that first incident that we dealt with was I was then able to use that to disseminate that to staff. So I did some staff training where we did some role play, almost kind of role playing the exact situation, so the staff could really understand, actually, we've got to get this message across to all our children. You know, following it all through to where we are now, I would say all our children are really clear that it is a collective responsibility to ensure that everyone is safe and happy. And we talked about being defenders of Vale School. which was a really nice phrase. And I've revisited this over a kind of programme of assemblies, and will continue to do so, because I think it's really important to keep that message up. You know, are we all being defenders of our school, and how are we doing that? What does that actually look like? So I think that was one of the big impacts, was actually that shared understanding of collective responsibility. And also our pupil survey showed a real marked improvement in pupil relationships. So I was really pleased to see that. And our school actually came out with 98% saying they feel safe and 98% saying they feel happy at the end of the programme. And I think that was really reflective of all the hard work that everybody had done in relation to this. And in terms of staff, I think it gave staff a really strong tool on how to deal with bullying incidents. And like I say, a different approach, rather than a kind of you've been bullying, blame approach and you're the poor victim. It was just enlightening to see everybody have that confidence to say, no, let's get all the children together involved in this incident and work it through together, and unpick everything at a much deeper level. And parents also, I think, as a result of all of this, have felt that, you know, bullying incidents, when they do occur, are dealt with promptly, but also that we have a strong ethos and values that we are promoting through our everyday work with children, in promoting these positive interactions between them, both inside the classroom and out on the playground. And I think I know I've talked about it a lot, but the roles that children play in bullying incidents was the key thing that I took from the training, and the imbalance of power, because that's a phrase that I'd heard before, and I understood that imbalance of power. But I think, having been through the programme and learnt more about the roles, and how actually it's not just about the power of the child doing the bullying behaviour, but actually the power that all those other children can give to that ringleader. So for me, it was all of that understanding of the dynamics in a situation, and how to steer children on that pathway out of conflict. That was a key thing. First, I'd say that the ABA programme is a high quality programme, and I'm really grateful for all the training that I received from the programme, and the tools that I was able to use, like the audit tool and the surveys. But it does require a full commitment from all the staff, and the wider community, governors. And we got governors involved all the way through this programme, and our school council. So you really need that buy-in. We were committed as an SLT to this programme, and I think if you're thinking of doing the programme, that is a key thing. You need to get everyone on board. So yeah.